I'm Dr. Kirby Thompson, licensed naturopathic doctor, owner and operator of Wildflower Wellness. And today, we're here for Dr. Kirby's Pick 2023. It is May/June. So May, we talked about thyroid issues, really how the thyroid functions just a little bit, and how you want to nourish that thyroid, and also make sure that your hormones are balanced, because remember, when one hormone goes out, they all go out. So when you go through a perimenopausal type time period, right? Remember, menopause, right? You're in menopause 1 year after your last period. Well, that is really crazy. That may be that you hit a significant point in your perimenopausal period. However, that perimenopausal period can start in your early to mid 40s, and it can last from your mid to late 50s. So there are a lot of hormonal fluctuations, and some of this is normal. The best thing, well, a normal variant, but this is the time period, and the best thing to do is make sure you're doing the basics, right? Because unless the basics are done, health will not be achieved. Whatever the basics, right? I always talk about do the basics. So water, light, go outside, get some light on your face. Exercise, light or brisk walking is great. It gets you outside and in the sun. It's wonderful. Rest. Most people do not rest enough that I talk to unless they are retired. And sometimes retirees are busier than people that work. I can tell you that. So make sure you're taking time to rest. And remember, sleep is also a basic, but sleep and rest are two different things. You just kind of have to hit that reset button, sit down with a good book, relax. Those are very important things for health and longevity and aging, because of the how the body is affected by that stress. And remember, just because you're not stressed out about it doesn't mean it's not stress on your body. That over time will affect that. And I just mentioned perimenopause. So as you go into perimenopause, the less you are following those basic things, right? Rest, diet, exercise, hydration, nourishment, right? Multivitamin, multimineral. The harder time, most likely, it's going to be. I do see, harder time it's going to be. And we're going to be talking that throughout, hopefully, the year. As I go through perimenopause, and we've helped people in perimenopause a lot. But as I go through perimenopause, personally, there's a lot of things that people need to know and to take heed before they get there. So anyway, back to hypothyroidism and thyroid. We are gonna focus on hypothyroidism, and at some point we're gonna go to autoimmune type conditions. Hyperthyroidism too, but like I said, I see more hypothyroidism in the clinic. So what does that entail? So symptoms are often low heart rate, fatigue, cold intolerance, like you get really cold when you walk in a room or you're sitting around and you're like, I'm freezing, I have to have 5 blankets. Weight gain, poor appetite, hair loss, cold and dry skin, constipation, wow, stiffness, muscle aching, sore, cramps, those types of things. Now, these can be symptoms of a lot of things, but often the thyroid is involved in chronic issues. So if you have heavy metal toxicity or microbial infections or gut problems, often the thyroid is involved, and if you don't address that, it's going to be harder to clear. But you need to make sure that you're with someone that takes you on the step-by-step process. Most of the time, people need a step-by-step process. Step-by-step process is the best. So sometimes you can have puffiness in appearance, a hoarse voice, and swelling in the eye area. Some people have period problems, erectile dysfunction, or decreased sex drive. And so those are all relevant with thyroid. Now they're relevant with other things too. And speaking of perimenopause, there you go. Other symptoms that you can have are depression, concentration problems, goiters that we already talked about, hypertension. Very interesting, isn't it? Hypertension, not hypotension, hypertension. Decreased activity, pot belly, puffy face, that kind of thing. So if you have any of those things, dadgummit, then you may have hypothyroidism. How do you know? Well, the first thing you do is test. Now, there was a doctor that said that the best way to test for hypothyroid issues was basal metabolic rate. And you can do that very easily at home to test for the basal metabolic rate if you have a thermometer. And you can buy a basal metabolic thermometer, and then you can find what your basal metabolic temperature is, and then that will tell you, hey, maybe I need a little support. Now, there are other ways to test, and that would be blood work, okay? Now, often what I see is you run a TSH, and that is it. But that's a very short-sighted test in an organ that gives a hormone that goes to the DNA of every cell, that without that stimulation to the cells can affect every organ: brain, lungs, stomach, gastrointestinal tract, liver detox. Wow. So it is very important to get a broader category of testing, okay? Now, if your TSH is out, like if it's above a 2.5, then yeah, you probably need some supplementation. But if you want a broader, now just because your thyroid is out of whack doesn't necessarily mean you need a prescription. It means you need to get your body back in balance. Now, at certain ages and in certain times in our life, emotionally, family-wise, work-wise, depending on what you're under, it is very important to supplement that body. Oh my, kitties! No! Did you all hear that? Those kitties are going at it. Okay, the more you do the basics, or the more you can do the basics, you know, food, diet, water, low stress, yada, yada, taking time to rest, the less supplementation you most likely need. Personally speaking, as I go through perimenopause, had a traumatic brain injury, yada, 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 I need to supplement my thyroid. Now, I don't take thyroid medication like a prescription. I don't take levothyroxine or anything like that. I do take a glandular. I take a low dose. Sometimes I go up on it, sometimes I don't. And I also take a supplement. For example, this one, Thyroid Strong, which is very good at helping supplement not only my thyroid and helping that thyroid glandular work better, but what we want to do with our supplementation is we want everything to work together, right? Because if you'll look back at one of our posts in May, you'll actually see that all of the hormones refer back to each other and they affect each other. So there are quite a few hormones and also neurological neurotransmitters, which are neurohormones, right? And they all work together and there's all kinds of feedback. But we're going to keep this to the thyroid and what we most commonly see. So what we see is often estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone being supplemented, especially with women of a certain age, and also in men, right? You see a lot of testosterone. So I want to talk about the estrogen, right? So estrogen can actually slow your thyroid function because of how it affects the way the thyroid hormone is carried, right? So it can increase what's called a thyroxine binding globulin. And remember, if hormones are bound, they cannot be used. So it's important to have those balanced. Now, progesterone can effectually help decrease the thyroxine binding globulin, and actually increase available thyroid hormone in that way. Now, the progesterone also can increase the activity of the enzymes that produce thyroid hormone. So you'll see how a balance of those are really necessary for that. Testosterone can actually decrease available thyroid hormone. Now, if you're on hormone replacement therapy, don't stop, right? Just you need to make sure you contact your provider, make sure you're getting your blood work and things like that. But if you're on hormone replacement therapy, or if you're taking a thyroid prescription, maybe you need a little more balancing, right? So what we call that in naturopathic medicine is, for hormone replacement therapy, is substitute function, right? So we want all those to work together, and we are great at Wildfire Wellness in helping integrate those types of therapies. So maybe you need a little more, a greater depth to your protocol. Now remember, don't do anything if you're already on stuff unless you get the advice of a licensed naturopathic healthcare practitioner. Very important. Now, I would like to talk about a couple of other hormones, and one of those that I see commonly, cortisol. Cortisol, remember, they're maladaptive stress syndrome. Once you go under stress, now stress can be like, oh, horrible. Stress can also be good. I went to 7 Christmas parties in a week one year. This was a long time ago. At the end of that, I collapsed. I had a great week, but it took me 2 weeks to recover because it was just too much. It was good, but it was too much. So, very important, cortisol can actually prevent your body from getting the active form of thyroid. Cortisol, right? Cortisol can stimulate insulin, right? Insulin secretion, because cortisol shunts sugar into the system. And that, my friends, can cause insulin resistance. Now, insulin, you can get insulin problems just from stress. But insulin associated with the thyroid, let me read what I have written already. The association between insulin resistance and hypothyroidism is well proven. Insulin resistance can trigger a high TSH levels and vice versa, right? So it's really important to make sure, especially under stress, no sugar, right? Sugar is terrible. But you want to get some dietary advice from your natural health care practitioner. Now, I personally do really well on the Paleolithic diet, right? It's not, I know that, what does it say in the Proverbs? It says, honey tastes good, but too much of it makes one sick. So you can have honey on the Paleolithic diet, you can have maple syrup, you can have all that stuff. You cannot have sugar. Well, you can have whatever you want, but if you're following that diet, you don't want to do that. But you still want to be, you don't want to overdo it, right? Wine is on the Paleolithic diet, but you don't want to overdo that either because it's sugar, right? It's converted into sugar in the body. So is honey and so is maple syrup. So just want you to know that all the hormones work together. So it's really important, if you're balancing with supplementation, to make sure you get a good depth, and always follow the basics. Otherwise, you got to take more stuff. Who wants to take too much stuff? No, I do not. Now, nutrients. It has been proven, studied, that it is very hard to get nutrients in our food today at levels that we need for our metabolic processes. So, there are some nutrients that are very important in metabolizing our thyroid. Iodine, iron, selenium, copper, zinc, B12, B2, B6, manganese, molybdenum, or as we say to get people to be able to spell it on a quiz when I taught chemistry, molybdenum, boron, magnesium, vitamin D, vitamin A, vitamin E, B3, and vitamin C. Now that's a lot of nutrients. There are foods that are associated with these nutrients. I do suggest, and it is on my basics, a multivitamin/mineral, very important for overall health. There is testing, and we do that too. We do it through with hair. I also send out for if I have to, I send out for blood analysis, things like that. There are ways that we assess your nutrient status. At Wildfire Wellness, we do this through hair analysis, spectra cell testing, and a test from US Biotech called Nutristat. And I think I might be in love. But a hair analysis is pretty cheap, for different forms of assessment. And it's a great thing to do, I would say, once every year or two, just to see how it's going. And the one that is ordered through Wildfire Wellness, it does give you an assessment and some ideas and suggestions on what you're doing in your overall health that may be helpful in the long run to get things turned around for you. The one with US Biotech also does an oat test, and that's an organic acid test, and that thing is pretty cool, right? So the organic acid test that comes with the Nutristat, and it can tell you, what category you have problems with. You have a gut problem. Do you have a neurotransmitter issue? Do you have mold? It's a very good assessment. And so that, I really do like that company for that assessment. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, if you're a patient, then you need to call and get scheduled. If you are not a patient and you would like to be, it's pretty easy. You give us a call at 601-287-3837 and you'll talk to one of the ladies. And if you have any questions, hey, they're pretty good. And I can always give you a call back too. We appreciate you and look forward to seeing you and working with you on your thyroid. And it can get pretty complicated. This is just an introductory. And don't forget tyrosine. Now, we would love it if you would please go to our social media. We're on YouTube. That's where this is, but it will be on Facebook. Hopefully, we'll be able to get that on Instagram at some point. Parts of it anyway. So if you'd like, follow and share. And while you're at it, why don't you comment and tell us some things that have helped with your thyroid, what nutrients you take. And I'm going to share with you a few items that I think are great. I've used with people, experimented on them for work. Currently, we use the thyroid. Oh, I also like the professional health products. This is the thyroid. There's all what is that? There's all kinds of thyroidine. I use that a lot in people with high blood pressure. There's Thyroaid. And what I did not talk about, which was the tyrosine, right? Iodine and tyrosine are so important for the thyroglobulin and the making of those thyroid hormones, T1, T2, T3, T4. Other things that have are the ashwagandha. This thyroid here, this is pretty good. This is the Vitamins Plus brand. I use that one on a few people. The Bacopa, the Gotu-Kola, the Bladderwrack. Depending on who you are, sometimes that can make you a little nervous. It has the zinc and copper in it. Copper is really important for that type of health. Now, a lot of companies, Standard Process has a really good thyroid PMG, and that is the T4, right? The T4. No T3 in that thing. So you got to make sure you're supplementing the conversion. And you do that with selenium, iron, and vitamin C, and some other things. But it's very important that if you're going to supplement anything like iron, that you do have a test for iron, and we can help you out with that too. But this is a really great Thyraxis. Apex Energetics has a great series, you know. Is your problem in the brain? Is it in the liver? Is it in the thyroid? And, you know, you can supplement accordingly. Pretty freaking cool. Oh, yeah, that's selenium. And then the Thyrotain. I also like the Michael's Thyroadrenal. That's actually quite good. And it's very complementary and similar to a little bit the Thyrotain from Orthomolecular. I like that. Now over here we have the nutrients, right? The C's, the selenium. Now I've got these out, the alginate and the selenium, because the toxins, the metals, right? Those are really important in thyroid. They can just get right into those receptors and block those things. And you can have totally great hormones and levels and all that, and dadgummit if you feel like crap. So, yeah, you know, you have to detox those out. There's some of them are fat soluble, some of them are water soluble. So you have to make sure you're doing the right things and know what's there. Hair analysis can help with that. All right, great. There's the mint. Oh, I forgot about that. Standard Process has some great products for iodine, depending on your level of anxiety, right? And general well-being. Oh yeah, the B vitamins. These are wonderful. And of course, I think the CoQ10 is fabulous. But remember, anytime you're dealing with thyroid, there can, of course, be root issues. Some of that could be, like we discussed, perimenopause. Some could be heavy metals, like we talked about, stress, immune imbalance, postpartum, and the list goes on. So, like I said, if you need help, we're here for you. We appreciate you, and we look forward to working with you. Please give us a call and visit us online. Like, share, and comment. Help other people. www.wildflowerwellnessllc.com.